So we're talking about clothes, shoes, bags, accessories, anything copied off the designer runway, made in bulk from inexpensive materials and sold on the high street. In the early 1990s, when Zara first opened in New York City, the New York Times coined the word fast fashion, the name for it. And it's to describe the brand's speedy process of design to rack in just 15 days, if you can believe that. It's just, anybody who knows how to sew will tell you 15 days to make a garment from start to finish is just ridiculous. But they did it, and it was a huge success. The business model was picked up by all the rest of them, Topshop, H&M, Primark, you know, all the names. And it was pretty exciting stuff. They did, you know, some pretty amazing catwalk knockoffs, and it was accessible to us. Just about anybody could afford it. Mums, stay-at-home mums, office workers, students, even, you know, the young teens, they could go into Zara or Topshop and buy a dress. And basically it would cost them the same as going out for a sandwich and a coffee. That should have been our first clue, but anyway. So over the years, as brands grew exponentially, they saw the market become insatiable, and they hit on that and took advantage of it. So what they did to stoke that fire was replace seasonal drops, which is summer, autumn, winter, spring, having the new range. They changed it to every month. So it was every 4 weeks that they would have a whole new range, and they just throw it all in the shops and build it up into this big thing that, oh, you've got to have this dress because, you know, it's just the trend, and if you don't have it, you're not going to be cool and fun, and it's only $20. So off we trot and go and buy ourselves a new dress, which we didn't actually really need, and maybe it doesn't even suit us. It was crazy. Buy, wear, throw away, repeat. It just was a cycle that we all got sucked into. Fast fashion brands are doing collaborations with high-end designers like Marni, Lanvin, Versace, Balmain, Lagerfeld, and even Isabel Marant. And people like that really give fast fashion brands legitimacy. And for people who are into fashion, that just means, oh, I'm getting something that's from a designer, but I'm only paying, you know, maybe $50 or $100 for it. So billionaires got richer, and we couldn't clear out our closets quick enough. So over the next decade, fast fashion got faster, and it became disposable, ever more disposable, like single-use plastic, really. The brands deliberately did this. It's called planned obsolescence. And what they did was make clothes that they knew would fall apart after a short period of time. And that way it would force people to get stuck in the cycle of buying something, you know, on a regular basis, when really wearing something 1 to 5 times is what is the problem, because it's just the high turnover and volume. So with the speed of manufacturing at an all-time high, brands needed us to shop more. And that's what they did. They pushed and pushed and pushed for us to shop more so they could turn over this stock at incredible rates. And then shopping became woven into our lives. Like the actual shopping itself became our entertainment, our social life. It cheered us up. It became our therapy. I mean, retail therapy was a deliberate act from brands to make us think that if we went shopping, we would feel better. We would cheer up. It would get rid of all of our problems. It was that deliberate. The world began to realize that there was a connection. We were getting these cheap clothes, and the owners of the shops were getting richer. So how was that possible? It was possible because of this. It was possible because the people making the clothes, they weren't getting paid properly. And I mean properly, it doesn't even begin to cover it. So let's go into some of the details so you know the severity of it. If you exploit your workers, then you're basically giving carte blanche to the factory owners. What they would do is the brand owners would go to the factory owners and force them to cut their margins so low that they were in a position where they would be forcing their workers to work ridiculous, ungodly hours for long stretches of time. Some people were forced to work. Some people, they stopped them from creating unions. Their hands were tied. In this particular situation, it was worse in other situations. So we realised in the global north that the only way we were going to get our affordable clothes, and the billionaires were still going to get richer and richer, was by keeping the global south in poverty. And that's where the connection for me really struck. I don't want to think that these people are working every God-given hour and they're still unable to feed their families. Their children are still unable to go to school. So 2% of garment workers across the globe are not paid a living wage. No, I'm sorry, 2% of workers are paid a living wage. So that kind of gives you a reality check of how deep and far-reaching the issue is with human rights abuses for garment workers and people in the fashion industry. It's not just the fast fashion industry, but that's a very big part of it. You have to be careful when you compare the price of your garment to the conditions of the workers, because they're not necessarily going to correlate. You still have to do the work. When you want to buy something that's expensive, don't just assume that that means automatically the people who made it are being treated properly. It's often the case, and with sustainable fashion, it is the case. And that's probably your only your only ability to be able to scale it through. But when it comes to Gucci and Chanel and Prada and big fashion labels like that, you still have to keep your wits about you. So in terms of fast fashion, the forced labour includes a lot of abuse. There's a lot of verbal abuse. There's a lot of physical abuse. They will beat the workers while they're sitting there sewing because they're not sewing fast enough. There's sexual abuse, a lot of rape, and they force their workers to take contraceptives so they don't get pregnant and stop work. 80% of the women, 80% of the garment workers are women, and that cuts hard. In addition to these horrors, the other thing that is a no-brainer for me is the child labour, which I've touched on slightly. Children aged between 5 and 14, if you have children and you just think about what they're like at the ages of 5 to 14, they're forced to work rather than go to school. It's estimated there's about 168 million children across the globe today working. That's what we know about. And most of them are working in fast fashion. It might not be in garment factories. It could be picking cotton. It could be doing some of the heavy lifting. It could be in the toxic chemicals, rinsing denim jeans in the waterways, is stuff like that. It's very broad. Some people argue, I've had this argument many, many times with people, frustratingly, that if the children are working, then at least they're bringing money into the family so they can lift their community out of poverty. No, this is a stunning misconception that brands have actually perpetuated because it suits their agenda. And it's just completely false. They don't make enough money. They barely get by. They're not even earning minimum wage. So we won't even legitimise that with any further discussion about it. They grow up to be the next generation of illiterate adults. That's the truth of it. So I just found out recently that a American brand, The Children's Place, which I wasn't even aware of, is, you probably all know it. It's, I guess when I told Roberta, she just literally went, oh. The Children's Place has just been exposed to having not paid its Ethiopian garment workers since March. What's happening with coronavirus is just adding another level to the crimes that these brands are getting away with. So they've cancelled their orders and the clothes are made and they're all boxed up, but they're not getting sent off, and the brands have refused to pay. These Ethiopian garment workers, they earn $27 a month. So while the fashion brands are still selling online, in fact, they're making more money over the course of the coronavirus because everyone's shopping, bored, and it's online and it's safe. They're actually getting richer, but they can't pay the people who made the clothes. The Children's Place makes $2 billion in revenue, so they can afford to pay. So yeah, we won't be going there anymore. For many years since the Rana Plaza tragedy, not much has changed, unfortunately. There's a lot of organisations now that didn't exist before because of this, that are fighting tooth and nail to get equal rights for these garment workers, for them to set up their own unions, for the brands to take responsibility for paying a living wage, a dignified wage. And there are some campaigns you may have heard of. The Pay Up campaign is a really good one that's actually yielded a little result with some of them. So they are making steps, but we need government policy and legislation to really push hard. And I think from a perspective of privilege that I have, I can afford to not shop there. So my personal choice is to boycott all of them. And that's Gap, Banana Republic, all these shops that have become part of your, sort of in the American psyche. You've grown up with it, you've probably dressed your kids in it and all that sort of stuff. Never bought any of it. And the thing is, I can sit here and say that because I can afford to shop somewhere else, or I don't have a problem dressing my kids in secondhand. And my kids have worn secondhand their whole lives, like from the moment they were born. So it's normal for our household. But I know that some people still have issues with used clothing. Problem is, we've got a ton of it. So the balance has got to come from somewhere. So brands like Nike, Topshop, Gap, H&M, Boohoo, the ones we've mentioned before, they're spending millions deceiving shoppers so that they can continue in the unethical business practices that make them rich. It's called greenwashing, and I don't know if anybody who doesn't know what that is. It's a fairly new term, but it goes across anything to do with the environment and social justice. And it's when brands spend money on advertising to make out that they're doing the ethical and environmentally eco-friendly thing, when in actual fact they're either not doing it at all, or they're doing such a small amount of it that it's cancelled out by all the other work that they're doing. And H&M are really good at it. They've invented it, really. They have a sustainable collection that is probably every year. They've been doing it since Rana Plaza. They've been promising to pay proper wages, and they still haven't done that yet. But they have managed to bring out the sustainable capsule pretty much every year since then. And I think it's about 13 items or something, and it's a dress, and it's made out of organic cotton, and they'll have recycled polyester and all the rest of it. And people eat it up because H&M is telling them that this is the way they're moving forward. They're not moving forward at all. The proof is in the past, and the past is that they have still been doing the same thing, and it's volume, volume and volume. It's getting bigger. It's not getting less. The Bangladesh garment industry is 80% of their country's export revenue. And this is a bit of a sticking point when it comes to boycotting brands, because a lot of people don't like to say, organisations I'm talking about, don't like to encourage that because they feel it's taking the jobs away, the work away. But I feel very strongly that when you take your business away from a brand, they see the level of their profits drop. They take notice of why people are not happy, and they don't really care what it is, but they'll change their business model based on the consumer's behaviour. And I've seen that happen over the 30 years that I've been an environmentalist. It works. And I understand why it's important to not take business away from these countries that up until recently, we were still calling them developing countries. So there is that issue. The Bangladeshi garment workers earn about $33 a month, which is far below a livable wage. So they're still very far from getting any of this, the good stuff that the country's making, and the fact that it's lifting up their economy as a whole is one thing. But if it's not coming back, you could use that whole trickle-down mentality. If it's not coming back to the people who are actually doing the work, it's not going to work, is it? They're not changing policy. They're not giving their workers any rights. So I just think it's worth. I'm not going to tell anybody to boycott brands, but that's what I do, and I think it's really worth considering. And if you want to help these garment workers, there's so many other ways you can do it, and there are things you can do, which I'll tell you at the end. So along with the human rights abuses, fast fashion is responsible for Ecocide. Next slide, please. So Ecocide is another new word that was coined by a UK organisation that is trying to make Ecocide law. It's almost there in Europe. France has really taken a grip of it. It's going to be in the Paris Agreement. And I know a lot of Americans are on board with it. Once this government is gone, I think it'll be something that you'll be hearing more about. It's brilliant because what it does, it holds the brands accountable. Cheap materials used in fast fashion cause a huge amount of harm to the planet, both in production and at the end of their life. They're constantly polluting. And how is that? It's because these man-made fibres like polyester, nylon, acrylic, they're derived from petrochemicals. So we're taking them from fossil fuels. We want to get rid of fossil fuels. We don't want to ramp it up. We're making materials out of this stuff now. So when we wash it, it sheds microfibers. So this is happening when it's made. We buy it, we bring it home, we put it in our washing machine. They don't have filters. It goes back into the waterways. It goes into the oceans. It goes into the rivers. It's ingested by fish and mollusks. It goes up the food chain to us. We end up with it in our bodies. So it's out there now. It's happening. It's going around and around and around. And that's because of these cheap materials that we're buying our clothes, and we didn't know about it. Can I have the next slide, please? So it's not just man-made materials that are toxic. Cotton is also highly water intensive and toxic. If you have a look at some of these statistics, the materials one, over 100 billion new garments are made every year. Billion! And every second, the equivalent of one truck of textile waste is dumped into landfill or incinerated. That is such a shocking number. It's hard to believe, isn't it? It's actually true. And at the end, I'll give you my sources. The water usage, get a load of this. It takes 600, and I translated this for American gallons. It's 659 gallons of water to make a T-shirt, one T-shirt. It takes 2,108 gallons to make a pair of jeans. Jeans, why do we need to make any more jeans? Jeans last forever. 60% of the world's clothing comes from plastic-based materials, 60%, and that's because it's cheap. Another bad actor in the materials is viscose. Anybody know viscose? Yeah, viscose sounded really good at the time, but actually they chop down trees to make it, and then they pulp the wood with chemicals to make the fibre. That's a no-brainer. We've got to get rid of that. That's another toxic time bomb that's going off in its whole life. It's shedding when you wash it, and then when you throw it into landfill, and it just never dies. So the University of California estimates that 40% of microfibers are going into our rivers, lakes, oceans, waterways. I know, it's getting rough, isn't it? We're nearly over it. Don't worry, it's coming to an end. In terms of cotton, unless it's organic cotton, regular cotton contributes to 18% of worldwide pesticide use and 25% of insecticide use. So that's it. I'm not going to bombard you with any more numbers and any more depressing statistics anymore. What can we do about it? This is the fun part. So before you go and buy something new, I want you to ask these 4 questions of yourself. Can I buy it secondhand? And maybe you've never bought anything secondhand before. I'm willing you to open your minds, because it's often, some of this stuff looks new and there's a lot out there. While coronavirus is going on, that's kind of limited our resources in terms of buying secondhand. But fortunately, a lot of these places have opened up online. So you've got, ThreadUp is a really good one. It's got just tons and tons of stuff secondhand, and from all price points. A lot of high street shops, a lot of fast fashion shops. And let me just say, if you buy something from ThreadUp that's from a fast fashion brand, you can do that with pride and say, I'm giving this more life. I am keeping it out of landfill. I'm stopping it from being incinerated. So when it comes to the kids, I think that's a really good one. Then the next question, how much of your closet will go with it? And this is about minimizing what you buy that you don't end up wearing, or that you throw in the back of your closet and you never wear again, or you wear it once and realize it's not really your personality. I think if you take a moment to assess what your style is, then a lot of that stuff will already be disqualified, so you don't need to worry about it. The third one is a great campaign that was brought out by Olivia Firth. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she was married to the actor Colin Firth. She's a big she's just amazing. She's got a company called Ecocide, and they help businesses convert to more sustainable practices. But she's also really big in helping, like hands-on helping garment workers. And she made a movie that I'll tell you about later called The True Cost, if you haven't already seen it. So she started this campaign that is, I think it's hashtag 30wears. If you put into your Instagram hashtag 30wears, it'll come up of all the people who have done this. It'll probably come up me 1,000 times as well. It just means that instead of wearing a t-shirt once or 5 times, then if you think about wearing it 30 times, it like reduces its impact by 400%. So 30 times I think is a moderate amount of time. Most of my clothes are 30 years old. So that's like your starting point. If you start with 30 times, I think it really does narrow it down a lot. The fourth one is, can I buy it from a sustainable brand? That's a big question, because it's going to it'll mean that it'll come down to cost. Sustainable fashion is not cheap. Some brands are more affordable than others, and that is getting better and better. As it gets more popular and people get used to buying less, I think we have to change our headspace and buy things that we really, really love, we adore. We've thought over and over about it. We've come back to it, we've gone away, we've come back to it, we've gone away. We've thought about the versatility of the piece, and then we invest our money in it. And those are things that we want to wear. We love them so much. We can't wait to wear them again. So here's some things that you can do to take away the temptation. Unsubscribe from any fast fashion brands that you follow, any subscriptions that you have, any emails you get. Unsubscribe from those. Unfollow fashion brands and fashion accounts on all your social media. Just unfollow them. Don't follow them anymore. They're rubbish. Get rid of them. Click the irrelevant ad pop-ups so they don't show in your feed. And you'll find that your algorithms will gradually start to change. If you start putting hashtags in, sustainable fashion, things that resonate with that, then that will also help change the algorithm, and you'll no longer be bombarded with these items that you might be tempted to buy. So I'll also unfollow those fashion influencers. I have the other things, recycle. Recycle, that's kind of covers a few things. That means buy secondhand, recycle your wardrobe by sharing it with other people, and upcycling and swapping. Those things sound kind of like when you're a teenager and you used to share your clothes with your mates. Let's go back to doing that. If you've got friends that are roughly the same style and size as you, maybe you have something, you've got a job interview, you've got a wedding, you're going out with your husband or your partner for the first time in ages, you want to look special, but you don't want to buy something new for that. Ring your mates. What have you got? Let's do a swap. Maybe you want to keep it, maybe you want to swap it back. It's changing your mentality. You don't have to own it to wear it, and you don't have to wear it well. Like, wearing it well doesn't mean owning it. It doesn't have to have your name stamped on it. So you can rent. That's another big thing that's happening now. And now here's the big closet inventory. When you go home, well, you are home, when we log off, or tomorrow, or when you have some time, do a closet inventory and have a little think about what you want to get from your clothes, and is it doing you a service? Are there things in there that you haven't touched for years or don't suit you anymore? And I think that it's important to have 3 piles. You want to keep the stuff that's really good quality, that's got a high stitch count, that's been made by good brands you know is going to last you for a lifetime. Things that you really love already, and the staples, of course, like a white shirt and navy blue trousers might be your staple, things like that. The second pile is the upcycle pile, which is to change something to make it work better for you. And by that I mean, for example, if you have a skirt that's a bad length on you, maybe it's mid-calf, take it to a tailor, or if you want to sew it yourself, sew it yourself. But if you want to have it done by a professional tailor, it's going to be a lot cheaper to do that than throw it out and buy something new. So hem it up to the length that suits you, or take it in. If it's A-line and A-line doesn't suit you, take it into a pencil. You can cut your jeans, crop them at the bottom. There's like a million things you can do. And I've put a link on there with a woman who has an amazing YouTube channel. She's also a really good one to follow on Instagram, because she does these incredible upcycling things, and she'll tell you exactly how to do it much better than I would. So there's that. And then the third pile is the stuff you want to get rid of. So you either give it away, and I mean by give it to friends or people you know, or what did we used to call it? Hand-me-downs. Do that. Share it, or donate it, or sell it. And selling it, I think, is a really underutilized way of turning over your own personal stock. And especially if you do start to buy things that are really good quality, or if you have pieces that are really good quality but they're no longer your style, sell them on eBay. And if they're quality, or if they're labels, you'll make some money back, trust me. I buy a lot of secondhand designer stuff, and I've sold a lot of secondhand designer stuff. In fact, I've bought things from designer labels secondhand that I've sold for exactly the same price that I bought it for. So they do hold their value. The other thing you can do when you do your closet inventory is take out your seasons. If it's not the season you're actually living in, don't have it hanging in there. Put it in a suitcase nicely and put it away, label it, And then when you bring it out for the next season, you're going to have a whole Aladdin's cave of wonderful new clothes that you'd forgotten about. I do that all the time. I've been doing that for 20 years and trust me, it works. Plus I've got a really bad memory, so that helps. But that's a really good little trick that you can do. And if you're really sick of something, but you know it's a nice piece, put it away for 2 years. And I'm not kidding. It's like a treasure chest of stuff. When you open it up, I get really excited by that. The other little trick that I wanted to share with you is belts. You can see my belts up here. This is a very small portion in my collection of belts. Most of them are secondhand. Belts are cheap as chips, especially if you buy them secondhand, and they can transform an outfit and alter it completely and make it almost unrecognizable from one move to the next. This little number here, it's a plaited leather skinny belt, and I paid 50p for this belt, and I bloody love it. I've worn it so much, I can't tell you. It's a really good one for wasting things up and getting a 70s look with flare jeans and maybe a white shirt or whatever, something simple. Because it's long, it looks really cool if I put it around my waist and let the long bit hang down. But equally, because it's long, I can wear it around my hips too. So I get like a double whammy from that one. Waisted belts. This was another secondhand. This was Ann Taylor, secondhand on ThreadUp, cost me $5. And it's a boring, boring colour. And you probably wouldn't even look twice at it. But it works in my wardrobe because what it does, it's a really subtle change. And I just put a few of my things out because I wanted you to see, like, when you have a theme running through your wardrobe, it just makes everything so much more versatile. So this wide belt that's like a fake animal kind of skin looking thing in a really dull beige, it can go with every single thing I have, from the khaki silk shirt, the pale pink, this skirt goes with, this blue dress it's contrasting with. This is my Rixo animal print blouse. This cardigan, if I wanted to take the self tie off it and put a belt around the waist, it's just things like that. And that's like for $5, you've changed something right there, making it versatile. And versatility is like the key to sustainability. So in terms of what you should have in your wardrobe, that is a really personal thing. And I like the idea of having somebody you know and trust with you when you do your closet inventory, if it's at all possible during coronavirus. And then they can be honest with you, but also they'll have a different eye and they'll say to you, well, why don't you try wearing it with this or different ways. Colour clashing is a really good thing too, because, like, for example, that khaki silk shirt there, that colour goes really well with this blue. And you may not have thought of that. So it's just a matter of trying to broaden what you're used to and making your wardrobe work really hard for you.